The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.
With so many people living longer, the fear of outliving your money becomes a reality for many of us. Will I be a financial burden? Will I outlive my money? How will I be remembered? My name is Neil Himmelstein, president of Main Street Planning Group. Please contact me by visiting mainstreetplanninggroup.com. That's mainstreetplanninggroup.com, or call 631-647-4694. I will introduce you to strategies that will guarantee you will not outlive your money, that can guarantee you will not be a burden on your loved ones. Through a collaborative approach, we will uncover solutions that offer tax-efficient strategies, lifetime income, and legacy planning, choice, organization, direction, and education. That is the code we stand behind. Contact mainstreetplanninggroup.com. That's mainstreetplanninggroup.com, or call 631-647-4694. And listen to me every Friday at 3 p.m. as I host the Main Street Code for Financial Success, right here on 103.9 LI News Radio. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm your host, Neil Himmelstein. I'm here every Friday at 3 o'clock. If you'd like to get a hold of me, 631-647-4694 is the best way. If you miss an episode, you can catch me on Spotify, you can catch me on Apple, or the mainstreetcode.com. I have all these recordings on YouTube if there's some topics you want to get back to. And I'm very happy to be here and be of service to you. We work with hundreds of advisors across the United States as an independent wholesaler for life insurance, disability, long-term care, and annuities. That's where our areas of specialty is. We also work with a lot of accountants and attorneys who refer to us and have us go into various topics. And we put together a financial team if you don't have one, and we highly recommend it. And you know, this week I want to talk about a couple different things. One is I just hosted a seminar, a webinar, a conference with attorneys and accountants, and we all sat down and we talked about longevity. Longevity is like a real thing here. I know we've talked about long-term care in the past, but here's the thing. So we went around the room, and my friend who's an attorney, I had him talk about what's going on in his life, because I know what's going on in his life. His mom's, Gerwin, is paying $500 a day, $15,000 a month. I guess it's an okay place. His wife's parents are in Florida, and they're having trouble with their health. And I know he's been flying back in Florida at least twice a month with his wife, dealing with that stuff. And he has two lovely granddaughters here on Long Island. And to top it all off, he's running a law practice with multiple lawyers in his office. So every time he goes to Florida, he's playing catch up 24/7. And he's not alone. And everybody in the room had a story. Everybody goes through this. Longevity is a big deal. And having care for your loved ones is a big deal. And we're all stretched to the max. My point is very simple. It's not necessarily the person needing long-term care or needing assistance, whether they're in a nursing home or assisted living, or they're, in poor health and they need help, with the housework or getting groceries or any of that kind of stuff. It's not just that. It's the caregivers. It's the people that running business or working for a job that run and have to take care of these people because they're family. That's what you're going to do. But your time is divided as well. So, A, your job suffers, and it could cost you a lot of money because you could be missing work. B, your health suffers because you're running around all over the place. And C, what's really happening is you can't devote the time to your grandkids or your mom or your mother-in-law or your father-in-law because you're running all over the place. So you can lose financially and emotionally. And every person in the room has a story. Everybody. So everybody thinks, I won't need long-term care. It won't happen to me. Or they wait till they're 60 and say, okay, I'm thinking of retirement. Maybe I should look at long-term care. But all of a sudden now they have this illness or sickness, or, somebody in the room had a blood clot, they said, 10 years ago, and they could never get insurance again. And if they had only planned, because he was an accountant and making a ton of money, and if he had only planned, but he didn't. And people don't. And they wait. We all wait. We're all procrastinators. It'll never happen to me. Just look around your own family. It happens to everybody. The statistics that 70% of the people will need long-term care to 65 is incorrect. I keep saying it's 70%. No, it's closer to 80 or 90%. It's just 70% is what's reported. As a matter of fact, if you're a couple in your 70s or 80s, it's like 84, 90%. And why am I talking about this? This is called long-term care. This is called helping someone get up, bathing, dressing, doing daily activities, housework. We're living longer and longer and longer. And where's the money to do this? Where's the longevity? And we need to solve this with problems. It's not just insurance. There's multiple solutions. Okay? But you have to address it while you're young and healthy, that you can address it, either for yourself or your children, or even when you're in the process. It's not the person that's sick that has to worry about it. It's everybody else around them. Yeah, the person that's sick and can't do what they can do, yeah, they got to worry about it. They can't feed themselves and stuff. Yeah, that's a big worry. Who do I get? Who do I call? What do I do? Now, the de facto thing is, don't worry, the government will take care of you. Well, I mean, you see what's going on. They're cutting Medicaid. They're looking to cut Medicaid. Medicaid is the default if you need care in your home. It is not guaranteed that somebody's going to come to your house. They have limited hours. Maybe they'll come 1 day a week. Maybe you need 5 days a week, but Medicaid will come 1 day a week. Well, let's put them in a nursing home. That way we can control it. Which nursing home do we pick? Oh, whichever one's convenient for the government. Whichever one's cheapest for the government. They could be 100 miles from your home. It could be, how my loved one's going to see me every day. Maybe they're not. Maybe this is the bad house and I'm gone. That's the problem. The number one supplier, the number one provider of long-term care suffers is the U.S. government. Only 3% of the United States has an insurance policy to cover their for long-term care. I don't get it. If you know this is going to happen, why aren't you taking care of it? So we had another gentleman in the room who's had MS, multiple sclerosis. He's had for 15 years. And he looked pretty good. The last time I saw him was 5 years ago, and he looked better. I'm saying to myself, 10 years ago, he would have been in a wheelchair, disabled, and maybe dead. Guess what? He's gone 15 years with MS and still going. And came to the meeting, looked great, didn't stammer at all, a little bit, but 15 years. See, here's the problem. When long-term care insurance came out, they didn't know this was going to happen. They could not predict the longevity. So now you have the companies that originally started with long-term care insurance 30 years ago are in deep, deep trouble. Deep trouble. Because everybody kept their policy. And we had a company last year that went into receivership. The state is picking up the long-term care benefits for them, but it was one company, and they didn't really have great ratings to begin with, but they had great care. They had ranked number one in Consumer Reports, I'll never forget, in providing the care for people, in claims paying and everything else. They were there when people needed them. But they were there too much, I guess, because they're in receivership. And then the number one company in long-term care for years and years and years, Genworth, who decided, we like this product, we're going to reprice it every 2 years. And a lot of people still have Genworth policies. They might have John Hancock policies who went out of the business earlier. Genworth hung in there. We know this business. Here's what we're going to do. We're not going to raise our prices. We're just going to block it off every 2 years and come out with a different product with a higher price. Well, right now, Genworth is rated C++. I looked it up the other day because I have an old life policy with Genworth in it. And I'm like, they really stretched themselves way too thin. So what they started to do is they started to raise their prices dramatically. And I want to talk about that. We're getting near the break, but they started to raise their prices and policies started to lapse finally, but that's only going to put them further in the hole. And I'll explain right in a minute. You're listening to the Main Street Code for Success. This is Neil Himmelstein. The best way to reach me is 631-647-4694. Thank you. We'll be right back after break. Welcome back to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm your host, Neil Himmelstein. And before the break, we were talking about the longevity issue that we are all having right now, where people are living much longer than they ever thought. I had a meeting the other day with accountants, attorneys, and everybody had a story. Everybody was riffing about, oh, my mom's here, my dad's here, I got to take care of that one, my grandkids are here, I'm running and picking up the store, and they're running businesses, and they're all like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. Well, this is what long-term care is. And people think, they hear numbers and statistics and 70% and 20% and 50%. The insurance companies got it so wrong. So wrong. Because when they came out 30 years ago with this product, if you're seeing big price increases, I'm going to explain what this is about. And before the break, I was talking about Genworth. Genworth took the lead. They were probably one of the last ones to leave and probably one of the best carriers for long-term care. They overexposed themselves dramatically. They were giving lifetime benefits. Listen, at the time, 30 years ago, people would need it for 3 years and they die. Now it's ridiculous. We had a gentleman at the meeting had MS. 13, 15 years, I think he's had it. He looked great. He looked better than he did the last time I saw him 5 years ago. I was like amazed. And I know I had clients 5, 10 years ago that deteriorated very rapidly. I'm not saying that there's this cure for MS, but they've seemed to moderate it to keep people going for a long time. So this puts a huge strain on these long-term care companies when you need these services for much longer than ever anticipated. And we had a company that went into receivership last year, a long-term care company. The state is backing them up. Medicaid covers the majority of long-term care services for people in the United States, which is backed by the government, which is you have to impoverish yourself to get on Medicaid or go to an attorney and let them do trust work and move assets around and get them out of your name. If you're okay with that, that's fine. That's a plan. Maybe it's a good plan for some people. Maybe I've seen people multi-million dollars doing this. Oh, let me get all the assets out of my name, and then guess what? I can get you on Medicaid. But Medicaid is not an answer, especially if you need home care. Now, we have some very high net worth clients, and they think, I'll self-insure. Well, you know what? We had a client who said, I'm self-insuring. Well, you know what? His wife has to stay home with him all day long. I said, wouldn't it be great if you go out and hire somebody? Well, you did buy a long-term care. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. You did buy a long-term care policy. Wouldn't it be great to give your wife some relief so she can go out and go to the store and go, grocery shop, whatever she wants to do? Wouldn't that be freedom for her? You're not buying it for yourself. You're buying it for the other person who has to take care of you. That's what people don't realize. And it affects everybody, financially, emotionally. It's terrible getting older. And then we're leaving forever. So they can keep us alive forever. So in what state? Alzheimer's. 50% of all long-term care claims are due to mental. Alzheimer's lasts, on average, 14, 15 years. It's not a one-shot deal. But if you have somebody who gets in a car and they drive and they just keep going, or they can't, don't know their social security number, or the house starts looking messy, you know there's a mental cognitive thing going on. You got to get help. Long-term care policies do it. So I was going to tell you about Genworth a little bit. So there was a company that went into receivership last year. Thank God the state's helping them pay their claims. Genworth was decided we're going to be the best long-term care carrier in the industry. They had their own sales force. They're terrific. They didn't anticipate that everybody would keep their policy and that the claims would go on forever. They had policies that went on forever. Now they cap them, they do different things, but we're going to get into that. So here's what's going on with Genworth. They're now rated C++ because they decided we're going to be so good at long-term care, and now they got to pay the bill. Because 30 years ago, it was great. They were taking in money, they're taking in premium. Everybody says, oh, it's expensive, it's this, it's that. They're taking in money, they're taking in money, they're taking in money. Now all they're doing is paying out money, paying out money, paying out money. So they went to the states, and they said, we got to raise our prices or we're going under. Well, guess what? They raised their prices dramatically this year. New York State held them off for quite a bit. Outside New York, they were going up 15% a year on a steady basis. They had to. Because what happened is when people went on claim, they didn't have to pay anymore. All they're doing is paying out. So there's nothing coming in, it's only going out. So they raised their prices to a ridiculous standpoint, especially people who've had it forever. And what's happening is some of the policies are lapsing or they're shortening the benefit, and they're saying, oh, we're going to be okay, we're going to be okay. Well, guess what? Anybody going claim, there's no money coming in, it's only going out. What's going to happen? So it's a problem. So the insurance industry has addressed this and adapted to the situation and the climate with long-term care. They realize that they were wrong in their gamble in offering this product. But bottom line, it's a gamble. It's okay, I'm betting you're going to live, I'm betting you're going to die, I'm betting you're going to need long-term care. I think you're only going to need it for 2-3 years, and that's it. Well, guess what? That didn't happen. So that's the problem. Now, there's a couple things you can do. One is you can buy an income stream, an annuity, so you can't outlive it. That's part of a solution. You could buy one for future payments. You know, I'm going to buy it now. I got some money set aside now. I'm going to buy it for future payments so that when I turn 65, 70, I'm going to turn on the taps and I'm going to have that income for the rest of my life. It's kind of a cool idea and a good idea. And that's a possible solution. There's still standalone long-term care policies. What they've done is they blocked them off to a set sum of money so they limit their exposure. You know, there's only 1 or 2 companies doing it, but there are actually 3 in the state of New York. You know, I represent one. I can't represent the other 2. They've kept it very limited distribution. The other 2 are more expensive from everything I've seen, but, you know, and they cap it on how much you can buy. And they've squeezed the underwriting, meaning that in order to get that, you better be in great health. You better be able to answer a lot of mental, nervous questions because they're very picky on who they select. Because these insurance companies know they've suffered major adverse selection in the past. So what's happened is there's still some of that going on. A lot of life companies took a program, and annuity companies, they took a program where I'm going to take a lump sum of money and buy long-term care coverage for me in the future. Now, what that does is you take part of your assets, your rainy day fund maybe, and you take a part of that and you put it away, and the advantage of that is it's bought up, it's paid for. No price increases, it's paid for. Great thing. Or you can pay it over 10 years. They have plans like that. Most of them come with, outside New York, you can get just like an annuity like that. In New York, most of them come with maybe a return of premium, a little life insurance. That's how they're able to do it. And you can have a paid-up policy. The third way, well, you can always self-insure, but we could talk about that again. But the third way is they put it on as a rider as part of your life insurance contract. Now, if it's a rider as part of your life insurance contract, the good ones, and there's only a couple of them, because there's some that offer different ones, like chronic illness riders, not a long-term care rider, by the way. The good ones, and there's 2 or 3 companies in New York, They give you dollar for dollar. So if I buy, let's say, a $500,000 life insurance and I need it for long-term care, they will prepay me the death benefit dollar for dollar and drain that $500,000 to $400,000 or whatever it is, and whatever's left goes to my heirs. So very popular. It's probably about 10 to 15% more than a regular permanent life insurance policy. And the fourth way is to self-insure. And we already talked a little bit about that, but that's really the ways, or do some legal measures as well, putting money in trusts and away. You've been listening to Main Street Code for Financial Success. I could talk about this for days because it's so important that you take notice. If you want to reach out to me, 631-647-4694. Have a terrific weekend, everybody, or visit me at themainstreetcode.com. Thanks again. Have a wonderful weekend.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.